On this Wednesday night, the government unveils its nearly $30 billion transit expansion plan.
The Ontario government is taking the lead in building new subways in this province.
Dubbed the Ontario Line, the ambitious plan will double the length of the downtown relief line. Plus,
there's a lot of jobs along that route. University of Toronto Scarborough is on that route.
The Scarborough subway extension is still going ahead, but residents worried tonight there's no talk of the Eglinton LRT extension. And it was a sea of pink at schools across the city today to raise awareness about bullying. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. We begin with some developing news. A woman has died after being stabbed in the city's path system near Bay and King Street. Police updating reporters a short while ago.
Uniform officers from 51 and 52 Division responded to a radio call here regarding the reports of a stabbing in the food court level area. Officers attended the scene and located one female victim who had sustained critical injuries. Unfortunately, the victim in this case was pronounced deceased.
Now, the call came in around 7 o'clock tonight. Police say the female victim is between 20 to 30 years old. The homicide unit is now taking over the investigation. Now, officers are looking for a white male in his 30s, slim to average build, approximately 5'8", with a thin mustache and dark hair. Police say he was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt with a white shirt underneath. This is Toronto's 17th homicide of the year. Well, to the day's other big story now, the Ontario government's massive new plan for expanding public transit across the city. I want to show you how the almost $30 billion vision could transform the existing TTC map. The centerpiece of all of this is something called the Ontario Line, building upon plans for the downtown relief line. It'll run from Ontario Place to the Ontario Science Centre. Now, Scarborough will get its 3-stop subway extension. The plan also includes extending the Yonge Line north to Richmond Hill and expanding the Eglinton Crosstown to the airport, with a stretch of that buried below ground. So some sweeping changes, but it will require billions of dollars in funding. And critics worry this latest revision could derail Toronto's transit planning. City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly looks at the plan and the price tag.
We are here today to announce a $28.5 billion expansion to our province's transit network.
In Etobicoke, Premier Doug Ford unveiled the central piece.
My friends, the crown jewel, as we call it, the crown jewel of this plan is the new Ontario Line.
One end would be at the Ontario Science Centre around Don Mills in Eglinton.
This is Ontario Place.
And the other, all the way at Ontario Place on the western waterfront. Ford's goal?
Ontario Place will soon be a world-class year-round destination that visitors and residents will be able to get to on a subway.
It's like the long-awaited downtown relief line, but longer, a 15-kilometre stretch linking the Eglinton Crosstown with the Yonge Line. The province also wants to build a 3-stop Scarborough subway extension in the east, a Yonge subway extension to Richmond Hill in the north, and a partially underground Eglinton Crosstown extension to Pearson Airport in the west.
Burying Eglinton West makes absolutely no sense. Like, no planner, no one has ever suggested that that's a good idea. It'll just delay that project. It'll make it far more expensive.
Councillor Josh Matlow also worries about a longer timeline for a 3-stop Scarborough subway because the clock is ticking. The Scarborough RT is nearing the end of its lifespan, and the province's new plan could mean opening a subway after it dies.
Scarborough residents are not going to have an LRT. They're not going to have a subway. They're going to be left on the bus.
Mayor John Tory is more hopeful.
We have made significant progress. We have found ways to speed up the progress on these projects. Now I'll be looking for opportunities to achieve even more as we sit and sort out the details of these proposals.
The province believes it can have all its new lines up and running within a decade or so. But how are they going to pay for it? The entire plan totals close to $30 billion, and the province is promising just over $11 billion in funding. That leaves roughly $17 billion missing.
A transit network.
Ford is hoping those dollars come from both Toronto and the federal government. But if they can't or won't pay up, a bold promise.
If need be, we'll backstop it ourselves.
So where does all of this fit into the province's plans to take over Toronto's TTC subway network? Well, that was a bit on the back burner today with this transit expansion announcement taking priority. But the province says they're still committed to that plan and will be bringing forward the first round of legislation this spring. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
So it is a big plan, but there's actually a lot that's not in it, like how this will work or not work with John Tory's Smart Track proposal. And what about the plan for an LRT expansion on the waterfront? There's no word about that in the province's plans. Neither is the work that has already been done when it comes to extending the Eglinton LRT east. This would take it through the U of T Scarborough campus and then up to the Malvern Town Centre. Now, many fear this means the province might scrap that Eglinton East extension altogether. Tonight, a meeting was held to raise support for the line. Natalie Nanowski has the details.
It is ridiculous. We ask and beg and plead.
The frustration in the room was palpable as residents discussed the need for better transit in Scarborough.
When I moved out, it was so important that I decided where I was going to live based on access to transit.
Councillor Jennifer McKelvey grew up in Scarborough and has been pushing for better transit for decades.
Certainly, we've all heard horror stories of the Scarborough RT breaking down, waiting for a bus that just doesn't come in winter. So hopefully building transit like the Eglinton East LRT can give residents more time to spend with their friends and family.
When the city first proposed a one-stop subway extension, it also started planning for an extension of the Eglinton LRT, going from Kennedy Station all the way to Malvern Town Centre, with several stops in between.
It would be amazing. I know it's not going to get built before I retire. I have no idea what the announcement today is. It's so frustrating to just feel like you're in a battle of ping pong.
While the province is reviving talk of a 3-stop subway expansion, the Premier didn't mention an Eastern Eglinton extension. In fairness, it's still very much in the initial planning phase.
Other projects have been prioritized higher, including the relief line. That is an important project, as well as the Scarborough subway. But now we need to make sure that the attention is put onto the Eglinton East LRT so we can have it moved onto the priority list.
To do that, those pushing for the project now have to push for funding. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy joins us with their first look at the forecast. Colette, you just came back from someplace warmer to this. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I admit it. I'm trying to bring that warmth and sunshine up this way. I'm not sure how well that's working for me, but you know what? We have a warming trend coming in the forecast, and I want to point something out, that the average height this time of year is 10, average low is just around 0, and this morning we were at 0, and today, well, we were unofficially around 8, so really, today was kind of seasonal. I'll point out something else very quickly. This has been holding a long time, since 1939, record snow, over 26 centimeters. So in that department, we're doing okay as well, at least in this part of Ontario. We do have a system moving in tomorrow. We're going to notice the cloud cover increasing, the winds really picking up as well, and we may see some wet flurries or a light mix out of this, but most of it stays to the northwest. That's Thursday. Friday, we start off dry, then we'll see some rain pushing through, and then we'll clear out again. At least it will make haste moving through, but again, another windy day. We've got a few of those coming up. Overnight tonight, though, -1 with increasing clouds. That chance of seeing a light mix tomorrow. And I'm sorry to say, I'm not really bringing the warmth, Mike, because the high tomorrow is only 3, but the warm-up is coming.
Yikes. Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Police have released security video after City Councillor John Fillion's house and car were shot up last week. Now, this video is from around 1:30 a.m. last Thursday. Police are looking for the man walking there in a hoodie. Now, a number of shots were fired into Fillion's car and home. No one was injured. This comes less than a month after Fillion says someone tried to force his way into his home with a weapon. Now, this is a composite sketch police put out today of the suspect. Fillion says he believes the incidents had to do with his work as a counselor. If you think you recognize this man, Toronto Police would like to hear from you. Now, Fillion released a statement tonight thanking police, saying, in part, I am grateful to the police for conducting a thorough investigation, which I am confident will continue to yield results. Oh, this is almost budget day. Tomorrow, almost Thursday now, isn't it? We're going to get more details about the province's path to a balanced budget. In the last few weeks, some plans have been leaking out. Lisa Shing has the details for us.
You should be doing cartwheels all the way down this track here.
The Premier announcing a highlight in tomorrow's budget, $11 billion towards a $30 billion subway expansion in Toronto.
This is fabulous. Best ever in North America.
Other budget tidbits have been leaking out over the last few weeks. CBC first reported a central feature will be a daycare rebate, an election promise that could see low-income families get back up to 75% of their childcare costs. Low-income seniors will also get free dental care. We also know the province will save $290 million by eliminating more than 3,400 teaching positions through attrition.
What we're focused on in the budget is ensuring student success.
There will be details about the redesigned Trillium flower and new license plate slogans. But why is this in the budget?
We're doing something that's refreshing.
One of the key questions is how the government plans on tackling what they say is a $13.5 billion deficit and when. The finance minister has hinted it won't happen too soon or too far in the future. Considering we've been hearing a lot about tailgating being legalized and access to beer and wine in convenience stores, the opposition is convinced it means cuts to services.
These distractors are not going to take away from the fact that this budget is going to take things away from families.
They put themselves in a fiscal box, and that's going to create that pressure.
The Treasury Board president gave few details on what could possibly be cut.
What I'd like to cut is the waste.
And so far, we've heard few details about the PCs lowering the gas tax, the corporate tax rate, and middle-class income taxes, all promised in the election campaign. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
They just said she's on suspension as of today. That was the end of the story. They couldn't tell us anything more.
Well, the student was suspended from school for not having her vaccinations up to date. Only one problem. She did get all of them, just in other provinces. Why that complicates things, coming up after the break. A jury has approved a final set of recommendations in relation to a fatal stage collapse.
I hope that the people that the recommendations and the entities that the recommendations are directed to take them seriously. They're all positive, and hopefully we'll never see this type of incident again.
It has been 7 years since Scott Johnson, the drum tech for the band Radiohead, died during a sound check. The jury issued 28 recommendations. Among them, they suggest that companies that build temporary stages for events undergo licensing, and that riggers who work on performance venues in Ontario go through a certification process similar to what's in place for electricians. The recommendations are not binding.
I think they're really interesting and work really well, but also it's the modularity of them. So you get the opportunity to easily assemble them on a lot like this, but you can also disassemble them quite easily as well.
This is Stacked, a downtown marketplace made up of 120 shipping containers. It's now open for business, located at Front and Bathurst. You can find anything from gourmet donuts to coffee and mattresses. You can even browse art exhibits or sign up for a craft workshop. Well, a Toronto family found themselves scrambling to update their daughter's immunization records this week after she was suspended from school. Now, they thought they had been keeping her vaccines up to date, but they realized there was a problem because she got some of her shots in other provinces. Greg Ross explains.
Andrew McMonagle thought he was following the proper vaccination schedule for his 7-year-old daughter until he was told she was no longer welcome at school.
They just said she's on suspension as of today. That was the end of the story. They couldn't tell us anything more.
McMonagle says he had received notices in the mail asking for his daughter's updated vaccination records.
We were submitting the original documents of the vaccine records from the doctor, which are made as soon as they get the vaccines.
But he says Toronto Public Health continued to insist his daughter's vaccination records were not up to date.
Apparently it was the dosage. This is what they finally told us after many communications back and forth.
Complicating the issue is the fact that McMonagle's daughter had vaccines administered in 3 different provinces: Manitoba, BC, and Ontario.
Is it possible that if somebody has their child vaccinated in multiple provinces, that can cause a problem here when they submit their records?
Unfortunately, that is true. We don't have one national immunization schedule.
While vaccines are relatively standard from province to province, when they are administered can vary. And that was the problem the McMonagles ran into. Students in the Toronto District School Board are required to be vaccinated based on Ontario standards. For example, students here get 2 doses of the vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella after the age of 1.
If it's given before the age of 1 year, it doesn't count, and you still need 2 doses after 1 year of age.
Because McMonagle wasn't sure which vaccines his daughter needed to have updated, he had them all updated, meaning she has now had all of her vaccines twice.
We went to our family doctor to get it done, and he used some colorful language to describe that this is not necessary, but he said it's not going to hurt her.
They then submitted those records to Toronto Public Health, but were told it could take up to 2 weeks to process. After we reached out to Toronto Public Health, they re-examined the immunization records for McMonagle's daughter and were able to quickly resolve the issue. Her suspension has now been rescinded, and she's eligible to return to school tomorrow. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, they're giving them hell at the Scotiabank Theatre Wednesday, or at least Hell Boy. We'll take you to tonight's red carpet premiere after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
After discussing with my family and coaches, I've decided that I'll be declaring for the 2019 NBA draft.
R.J. Barrett making it official today on social media. He is ready for the NBA. The Mississauga teen says he's done with Duke and is touted as one of the top draft picks this year, expected to go in the top 3. Well, there was some hell-raising going on at the Scotiabank Theatre tonight. Some of the stars of the latest Hellboy reboot hit the red carpet for the film's Canadian premiere. Our Eli Glasner caught up with them. Eli?
Well, Mike, the new Hellboy came to Toronto to introduce the new film. This is a reboot of the franchise with a bloodier, edgier attitude and a new guy under the horns. You might recognize David Harbour from Stranger Things. Started as a serious actor, but he was telling us he got to feel very comfortable as the devilish hero.
He's a bit of a punk who's like trying to find his way and struggling with his own identity and his own flaws and his, you know, out there in a sort of way. And I mean, that's sort of been my trajectory. And I don't mind that. I mean, I like being a little messy, and I think that that's just kind of who I am.
Now, Harbour was telling us what really attracted him to playing the role was Hellboy's attitude, the way he likes to challenge the ideas and the institutions around him. But Hellboy is not alone in this movie. There is a villain, and her name is the Blood Queen, played by Milla Jovovich. Now, we know Jovovich because she has been in Toronto many times for many movies, especially the Resident Evil series. But I had a chance to ask her about, it seems like there's this preponderance right now of fantasy, whether it's the end of Game of Thrones, Hellboy, or Stranger Things. And so here's her theory on why there is so much of that on our screens, big or small, right now.
I think escapism is part of what makes us human. You know, we live our normal lives and then we want to go somewhere else on our off time. So I think this really is going to be, you know, something that just people go to let off some steam and have a great time and have fun.
There you go, Milla Jovovich, the opponent fighting Hellboy in the new movie, which opens Friday. Michael?
Okay, thanks, Eli. Kelly Kennedy's back with our extended forecast. We just have to get through tomorrow, and then things get better. Tomorrow's the brutal day, and then it gets better.
Yeah, so we just have to steel ourselves through that. Another chilly day. We're going to see a few of those. It is April. We're getting there to when it becomes more consistent. If we get through tomorrow, things actually will be improving for a few days. Let me just show you, though, what is certainly consistent over the next couple of days. I think you'll be able to spot this one on my weather headlines. Yep, breezy Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That will be consistent. The direction different with those winds, but tomorrow we're looking at possibly some very, very light stuff, but some wet flurries or a mix of a little bit light rain and snow. Friday, we get much milder temperatures, much milder, but we've got some rain to contend with. And then Saturday, we get the sunshine, and it is mild, but it's still going to be a little bit on the breezy side and probably not as warm as Friday. So the first system, we've got a few to deal with over the next 2 to 4 days, but this one comes out of Colorado, and as it moves in, we'll see increasing cloudiness tomorrow morning. Then the winds will start to pick up from the east, so coming off the lake. And then what happens is we may see the odd wet flurry, like I said, or some light mix. The Canadian model puts a lot into the GTA. I'm a little bit more favorable with seeing most of that moisture staying to the northwest of the GTA in terms of what I'm seeing from the system. However, more consistent will be that into Friday, still breezy conditions, the temperature picking up because the winds shift to the south. We'll see clouds increasing. We'll probably start with some sunshine, then clouds, then the rain will push through, and then we'll clear again. So it's going to move through pretty quickly, but we will have some rain as we're heading through the day on Friday. Now, in terms of the wind gusts, you can see that easterly wind. This is for tomorrow afternoon. I said it'd be a breezy day. Friday, looking at the afternoon hours from the south, Hamilton, some of those gusts up there over 70 kilometers an hour. And then even as we're heading towards Saturday, the winds shift to the southwest. That's why it stays a little bit mild, but we're talking about breezy conditions. Overnight tonight, light snow or late rain mix possible into southwestern Ontario with your lows 1 to 2 degrees. Tomorrow afternoon, 6 to 9 degrees throughout throughout southwestern Ontario. That's the range you'll be seeing. Into the afternoon, I'm really expecting a clearing trend, so getting some sunshine coming into the forecast as the day wears on and the clouds break up. For the GTA overnight tonight, it's the opposite with the clouds increasing and looking at those temperatures hovering just below the freezing mark, and tomorrow hovering just a little bit above. Again, I don't think we're going to see this much precipitation, more so the cloud cover and a light mix possible. As we head, though, through these next few days, you'll just notice some windier conditions. And look at that temperature. There's that warm up once we get past 3 degrees tomorrow, 15 Friday, Saturday 12 with sunshine. And okay, it cools down, but not as cool, Mike, as we go towards Sunday and into Monday.
Not as bad, but at least a warm up. Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
It was a sea of pink at schools across Toronto on Wednesday, all to celebrate International Day of Pink, to raise awareness about bullying.
It means, like, that it's important to speak up and, like, show your true colors and, like, don't be afraid of what other people will think.
It shows that we support people who might not want to come out because they're scared and...
Awareness.
Yeah.
Every year, students and teachers are encouraged to wear pink on this day at TDSB schools. Mayor John Tory also attended the event, as well as some special guests. The day tackles issues such as gender-based discrimination, homophobia, and transphobia. There were dance and music performances at this school, as well as yummy treats, as you saw there. And of course, everything was in pink. Students also made pledges on what they would do to stop bullying. I'll admit I forgot to wear my pink shirt tonight. I'll make it up on another night, but that another night won't be Thursday. That's because we are preempted. There's a doubleheader hockey later on Thursday night on CBC television, so our late night newscast is preempted. I will see you again on Friday. Good night.